I tell you, from secondary school to high school to bachelor degree, over and over and over again, they told me I was not good enough. I will never make it. I have no talent. And I believed that to be true until I changed my identity.
Welcome, everybody, to a new exciting episode of the Connected by Language podcast, the show that finds the most dedicated language learners out there and tries to learn from their craft. I'm your host, Michele, and I'm joined by my co host.
Michelle.
So, for the people that are joining in for the first time, I think it would be a nice thing to just give a little bit of an introduction of who we are, what languages do we speak, and what we're all about.
Okay, so I am Michelle from Germany. I speak German, English, French, Spanish, and a little bit of Brazilian Portuguese.
What a massive, massive set of languages.
Well, yeah, and I also work as a language education specialist at Tandem.
And what is Tandem?
Tandem is a language exchange app where you can exchange languages with people from all over the world, either in one-on-one conversations or in audio rooms as a group, which we call language parties.
And there are over 300 different languages that you can explore on Tandem. So no matter what kind of objective you're looking for, whether to get a speaking buddy to get your pronunciation better, or just finding someone chill that you can send international memes to, you will always find the perfect language exchange partner for you. And you might find inside the app people like me. Hi, my name is Michele. I come from Italy. I speak Italian, French, English, a little bit of Japanese, and a little bit of German. And one of the greatest things, I need to do my second introduction. Sorry. I'm going to redo the entire thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And you might find people inside the app like me. Hi, my name is Michele. I come from Italy. I speak Italian, French, English, a little bit of Japanese, and a little bit of German. And I'm someone that just likes to find people from all over the world and talk about the wonderful world of languages and just learn about different cultures. And one of the great things about places like Tandem and other language learning spaces is that it's full of people that are very happy to share the love of languages with you. One of the greatest advantages of language learning through apps like this, as we said for like a bajillion episodes at this point, is the environment, right?
Yeah.
Like having a great environment leads to people that are very willing to correct your mistakes, to support you no matter what happens. But the world of languages isn't this rainbow and sunshine. I mean, most of the time, like when you tell somebody that you want to learn a language, people usually are positive about it. Would you say that?
Yeah, and quite supportive too.
Yeah, it's like a very important skill, and a lot of people respect it no matter what language you're going for, even if it's a little bit of the niche ones. But not everybody's like this. And sometimes people can have a situation where the environment around them isn't as kind to people that are learning languages. But what happens when you're in that situation? What happens when somebody that you trust or somebody that is trying to teach you languages is not supportive? It's a little bit a non-believer. Do you just stay there, or do you take it and use it as an advantage to get your language learning journey started? Well, today we're going to find out, because today we're going to learn what happens when the environment around you isn't so kind as you think they are. So welcome to the show, Natascha Moser, also known as the German language coach. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Yes, I'm excited to know, because it's always nice to see some impactful stories. And I would love to go very much in deep into how you came into this situation and what the future is holding for you at the end of this very, I'd say, bumpy ride. We could call it that.
Yes, we can.
Yes, but before we actually dive deep into that, I think it's nice to kind of give a little bit of introduction. So, Natascha, for the people that are listening in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your personal journey and what you're all about?
I can. Thank you so much. So, my name is Natascha. I'm from Germany. I was born and raised here. And yeah, I live in Mannheim, Heidelberg, in the southwest of Germany. And since about 7, 8 years, I am a German language teacher. I started my journey online, and I have built now a following around over 400,000 followers in the social media, where I teach German as a foreign language to foreigners. But yeah, you're right, Mikkel. My language journey didn't start that smoothly, actually. I always struggled with languages, or at least that's what everybody told me. And at some point in my life, I believed that to be true. And I suppose that's why. And you invited me here to be your guest in the podcast today to share a little bit about my struggles and how I did overcome them and what's the difference between me, probably, and a normal teacher of languages.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you don't hear every day, especially when you get to talk to people that have been coming to like to the world of language as kind of like a career. Because a lot of people always talk at the very beginning that, oh, they loved languages or they found something that sparked them interest. Maybe it's like a different culture or the time that they travel somewhere. But your journey is a little bit different. But I would like to kind of like focus on that little part. So, like growing up, what was your general relationship with languages?
Uh, it always hurts to go back there, actually. I'm honestly saying that. I had a really, really hard time in school. Even in secondary school, when I was just a child, I struggled with my own language. And my mother tongue is German. And in school, I always had my greatest teacher, Mr. Schäfer, who gave me a really hard time when it comes to writing essays. And yeah, I was told many, many times that I wouldn't pass secondary school, that I was just not good at writing. I couldn't express myself well. And you know what? As a child, you take it, right? You just take it on as your own identity, what this other human being tells you, right? Natasha, you are not good at languages. And later on in high school, same here in English, you just have no talent. You will never make it. You will never pass this test. You will fail. You won't get your A level. Like it hit me, I tell you, from secondary school to high school to bachelor degree to master degree again. Over and over and over again. They told me I was not good enough. I will never make it. I have no talent. And I believed that to be true until I changed my identity. And that's a completely other story, which I'm happy to share during this episode.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to see like the way that like for a very young age you've been told that you weren't that good at languages, because in my mind, at least when I learned, like when I was also struggling with some languages at school, specifically Spanish, but
Mm.
it was usually taken off as like, oh, you know, you're young, you don't know how to study. But it's like, you know, you don't take it with that much seriousness. That the teachers may be a little bit more serious, but I'd say they weren't as harsh in their language. I'm not sure if, like, in your like language journey as well, Michelle, you had similar situation. Like, it's very interesting to see that they had this, I would say, pretty harsh view of language learning pretty early on. Because in my case, like a lot of the faults that I have in language learning, especially when learning Spanish, you know, where didn't have the best relationship with it. In fact, if I had extra time, I would talk about some of the funny happenings that happens with my Spanish. But they were always treated like they were always treated as like, oh, it doesn't, you know, is not that good at languages. You should study more. But never being like, you absolutely have zero talent. You will never make it. That's pretty harsh. But maybe I ask you, Michelle, if you had any similar situations, or like if your background has something similar to these elements, since you are also from Germany, you know.
Yes, well, not really with language learning because that was a thing I was good at. So
Okay, let's break
the,
out one of them.
this is also what got me here. I mean,
Yeah, it makes sense now that I think about it.
yes, but maybe with other like subjects like physics or something that, or actually arts. Like
Arts.
when I think
Okay.
about arts, I had a teacher and she was really harsh. When somebody didn't have talent in her point of view, then they wouldn't make it.
So
And she would tell. So
so at least there is like the harshness,
yeah.
the directness is something that happens, because like we had episodes in the past that was
Mhm.
about the people that are much more direct in feedback versus in other cultures where direct is a little bit more masked, a little bit more
Mm.
indirect. So it's interesting to see like if this directness also applies to the world of education, because 9 times out of 10, without, if you think about it, in the world of like, especially in the very few first episodes of the show, it's about the workplace, because in the workplace things are a little bit different than a teacher. But it's very sad to see that these people of high regard, that I would at least I would assume that you had a high regards for, as you know, educators, had to put you through it. But let me ask you this: like you said, some specific words about what did they tell you, but I wanted to go a little bit more if there was something specific that they told you. Like, what did the people around you tell you about your ability to learn those languages? Is there like something specific or just normal like words of discouragement?
I think the one thing that stuck most is the sentence, "You're just not good enough and you won't make it." Like they were so sure of what they said to me that I at some point believed that to be true. And how are you gonna believe that to be true? By that moment you decide to have another bad grade, right? To be right. So what you do at some subconscious level is you write an exam and you prove yourself and them to be right. That's by having a bad grade again. And that was my result over and over and over again until I basically felt like, okay, Natasha, are you sure this is the identity you want to live? I really did ask myself that. The moment I finished high school, which I did, I passed. It's a German 4. I'm not sure, like in English, what a 4 means, but a 4 is just enough to pass, right? It's a 4. It's a 6 probably in another country,
Yeah,
but a
and
4
like
is
in
a
Italy
4.
would be 6.
A 6, right? So for me, it was a 4, but it felt like they just gave me the 4 so I would pass, but actually I would be a 5, right? But I'm too nice. So it was like giving me more or less a favor. And I always told myself, am I really that bad? I
Mm.
couldn't believe it at some point. But after this after secondary school, I anyway stopped believing what everybody told me and decided, okay, you know what, I'm gonna have a break from school and do an apprenticeship instead. And I think this 3 years in a financial industry by the age of 17 till 20 shaped me a lot and shaped my identity and also the system that I believe to be true. And so I think that's was really helpful for me to get out of this grow zone of acceptance, yeah, accepting what other people tell me who I am and stuff. So yeah.
That sounds super impressive. How did that shift happen for you? Like you said, you finished school and you stopped believing in the criticism that they told you. Like how did that happen?
Uh, yeah, Michelle, as you said, you're from Germany, right? The
Yeah.
apprenticeship, like an Ausbildung, actually is a 3-year program. And I
Yeah.
was 17 years old. So I was basically pretty raw in the market in young age. And it was even harder out there. So maybe it was just a shift in that. But I proved myself that I was able to learn, study, um, be in a responsible position and have better grades. And somehow I got out of this zone of not being good enough to prove myself. You know what? Like I'm 17 years old, 18 soon. I'm gonna step out there. I'm already in the world. I make my own money. That proved something different to me. But even that, like proving myself the 3-year program, I ask myself after that, Natasha, is this all that you want now? Like you did an apprenticeship, you proved yourself that. Do you have more to give or is this the limit? And that's where I pushed through it. And I said to myself, I actually feel like an international person. I have this wisdom, this inner calling that I want to be a traveler. I want to travel the world. I want to be an adventurous person. I want to deeply connect with other people in several different languages. So I saw myself already being there, right? This visualization of myself, I could be there. I knew it. It was inside of me, but this environment I was in, right? The school system, the must do's, the tests,
Mm.
that wasn't exactly the environment that somebody like me should be in order to express themselves. That's what I believe to be true. And that's why I pushed forward and moved to change the environment, to change then my identity and my belief system.
And one thing to add to it is that, like, it's very interesting that you said that it's all about the environment because, I mean, it's the thesis of this entire episode. But one thing that a lot of people, especially when it comes to language learning, taking it to the next level, they tend to think the environment is like, oh, just more opportunities for me to learn a language, which is like, to a certain degree, that of course would work, but environment is not necessarily language related. It could also be, like you said, like working and getting, your satisfaction about your own capabilities in a different way. It's just that the overall like day-to-day life and the way that all of your skills have presented and applied is the, you know, not working properly. So it's very interesting to see that you took something like you said there was a finance one, right? You took work.
Right.
Yeah, so a finance one that is, it has of course some language aspect to it, but it's not the first thing that comes into mind when you think of finance. I mean, unless the language of, I don't know, money is a language on its own. I don't know. I don't know what finance people do all the time. Sorry, it's like there's an entire world dialect of like financial terms. Don't get me wrong, but it's like it's not the first thing that comes into mind. Is to adventure and learning languages and assimilating different cultures. So it's very interesting to see that despite that, you got the
Mhm.
ability to take it upon yourself and do something, admittedly, pretty risky, I would say.
Mhm. Maybe you can tell us also where you moved so we can get this like connection to the international part that you just mentioned.
Happy to share that, Michelle. So I finished my, let me check, in 2007. In 2007, I was 20 years old. Yeah. I finished my A. So after the apprenticeship, I decided to go back to school and to get my A level in a year. So before that, I had secondary, then the apprenticeship, and then I decided I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna do it now, get my A level, and I want to be studying internationally. I want to have a semester abroad. I want to experience that kind of feeling, right? So I said to myself, what is it that I need in order to achieve my biggest why? And my biggest why, my highest motivation was I want to live abroad. I want to be in this version of myself who I knew I would be one day. So I decided I go back to school, I'm going to do my A level, and then I'm going to go somewhere else, something that brings me closer to my biggest dream, which was back then studying international tourism and languages at the university close by my hometown. So in 2008, I saved every penny that I had and went to San Diego and put myself in a more like voluntary position, like being there for myself to study English another way that I was told before, surrounded by people who are all there voluntarily learning a language, not being forced to do it. No, I was there like voluntarily. I think this makes the biggest differentiation here is that this was something that I wanted and not something everybody wanted me to do. I was there because I wanted to be that person who speaks English. And back then, by 21, that's the apprenticeship and everything, I knew I could get out of my comfort zone. By leaving Germany, this was the first time I ever left my home country overseas by myself
Wow.
alone, with that in my head still, that I just passed the A level with a really bad English grade, right? That I would still feel comfortable and grown up enough and strong. I just, guys, I saw myself already living that dream. That's the thing that made me going. So I went there 2008 in August, almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, and studied for a couple of months in California. Yeah. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's
I
quite
still
quite
feel it.
Yeah, it is a quite of a massive leap because we had stories in the past for people that decided to kind of go inside like a country completely abroad with no plan, no nothing, just wanted to experience it. So it is not the first like rodeo that the people have been going through, but it's still extremely impressive to take something where you know exactly that you weren't as like despite the fact that you had a lot of, I'd say, proof that the return of investment wasn't going to be as smooth because some people simply have no idea about what's going to happen. Like we had an episode with one of you can check it out in the iCard somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in the corners, about someone that decided to move to Argentina completely out of the blue just because he wanted to, and in that case he didn't know anything. So that's why like every sort of interaction was always going to be a positive experience. It's like you never
Mm.
learning a new phrase in Spanish was gonna be going from 0 to 1, and that's 100% extra, boy. Like with some people though, do like your case is interesting because like everybody in your situation, or at least most people in your situation, will probably look at their test and be like, "Oh man, this is gonna be so hard. This is gonna be so difficult. I'm not sure I'm good enough. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like make it." But no, you take it. You went through it, and look at it. look at where we are now. You're in an entire podcast with people
Yeah.
speaking in English all the time. Like, 2007, you would be impressed, I would assume.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting actually to hear a bit more about your decision to go to San Diego. Like, what was going through your mind? I mean, you already said you could picture yourself going there, but like, what was the reason that you chose like this place, and maybe also the language English?
That's a really good question. I think California was just, like I couldn't picture myself living in England for a while, and maybe England was still too close to home. I really wanted to leave my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be honest here, it was also my mom's first time living abroad when she was 16. She left for California to Los Angeles. And I think it was her like, what about California? And I was like, oh yeah, I could picture myself there, California. I like the beach, sunny days, hanging out, Pacific Beach. It was this Venice Beach picturing kind of thing. And San Diego was just, I do not like this downtown places. So for me, San Diego is a little bit, yeah, more south. And I felt like that's probably the perfect spot for me. So I got in contact with different language schools back then. And they said, like, oh, this could be the perfect fit. And I was like, buying it directly. Like, yeah, that's great. I'm going to go there.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
absolutely.
and English back then was the language like it was the first second language that I had to study. So Spanish was not in the game yet, but I later on went to language schools, Spanish speaking anyway. But by that time, English was the one thing that I wanted most. So that's why English came first.
Yeah, and the great thing about America in general as a country is that it is such a melting pot of different languages,
Exactly.
cultures, and people that it allows you to move from one place to another, especially California. This like we're gonna talk about the Spanish adventures that you had, but in general, like the Spanish speaking community is extremely large in that area. So it would not be that difficult to also get that element in. Maybe the actual Spanish that you get is not the most textbook focused, but at the same time, we were not even planning on doing classroom stuff anyways. So, I think
Exactly.
that's not a little bit of a problem. But speaking about the impact of it all, one thing that it was very impressive. You said that it was a language that you wanted to speak. You were in a position psychologically that you wanted to improve. But I wanted to more ask you about the actual, like, I guess, learning impact that English had, because like what kind of impact did being immersed in a language, in a different language than you're used to, that you would have never experienced in a classroom, this even besides the psychological part, like actual impact?
I see. I think the real impact is that if you want something, you have to ask. And in a classroom in your home country, you can always switch, right? You can say it in German if I need to. But if you are living in a foreign country and you need something or you want something, not even an emergency situation, just a normal boring day, you want to communicate with somebody else who looks interesting, you are not surrounded with people from your home country, you have to step out your comfort zone and ask. And you have to be, it basically, how can I say that, you need to let the shy overcome you, right? You need to feel that, okay, maybe I did say something wrong, I even do today, but I don't care about it anymore. You say something wrong or it doesn't fit, whatever it is, but you do it anyway. So you get out of your comfort zone over and over and over again, and you prove your nervous system to be calm, because with the nervous system task is to keep you safe, right? So in order to be safe, I will be quiet.
Mm.
That's it. I stay safe in my comfort zone. But if I want something, and if it's only communicating or say hello to anybody else, I need to step out of the zone and prove my nervous system right, that it can calm down and let me speak in another language and I still be okay. And I think that's the biggest impact, that living abroad, traveling, moving to another country, you still be in a classroom in a language school, but it's different. It's a totally different approach and a totally different result you're going to get by the end. And people are not judging because we are all internationals. And normally people abroad are nicer than the ones at home,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's my
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah, like depends of course on the place, but most of the time when someone is trying to speak their language, especially when the language is, like of course in English is a case because English is like everybody can learn English. But if you go to like a country that has a language that is not as known, let's say that you move to, I don't know, to Portugal and you start talking Portuguese to people, people would be relatively impressed. It's like, oh, you to try, I'm gonna help you. I was surprised to see that America is going through the same thing. I wasn't expecting that. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I
But maybe you also,
Back then.
It's
yeah.
back then. That's important because right now I'm thinking for today. Like today, if you go to America and you speak English, it's like, yeah, yeah, you're supposed to do that. Like, are they gonna be negative about it? No, but it's still like, yeah, it's what I hope that you speak it, how to speak English. But you wanted to say something, right?
Yeah, maybe it's also about the people, like, because you said you went to a language school in the US. So people in the language school are also nicer than people in the school back home.
Oh yeah, of
So
course.
probably also in the street, but I can confirm that if you're going to a language school abroad and people from anywhere are there to learn the language, and in general, the atmosphere is a lot better.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because like and again, it's a part of the environment. The environment
Yeah.
there, people are here to see you get better languages. They're here to get themselves better languages. Because if you go outside, you go to the to the grocery store or something, and your English is still not that good, and you're holding up the line, that
Mm.
sometimes people can have a tough time and not the best of ideas. But actually, America again is very good because you don't have the fallback that
Yeah.
you cannot change the language in the moment. You're forced to get out of the situation like in the moment. Did you had a similar experience too, Michelle, when you like were in South America?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are not a lot of people speaking English, except for the younger generation. But even there, they say that their English is not super good. So Spanish was the way to go. I find it actually super interesting, Natasha, that you said that you're so reflective on this whole process, that you said that you can calm down your nervous system and like prove yourself that you can talk in a language even though it might be wrong or difficult. Because I had several of these situations in when I lived in Argentina, and I tried to speak in Spanish. For example, once I wanted to know like what the pastry was made of, like what was inside, what like were the ingredients, and I just tried in Spanish, and they just did not understand me at all.
Oh my
And,
Oh my god.
I mean, it's not an emergency or anything, or the world breaking down, but for me it was a really bad situation because I really wondered like what did I do wrong. But it's so cool now to see, like you describe it, to like just calm down a bit, and maybe try again, or ask for what they understood or something. So I think I will take this for my next like stay abroad, and try to visualize it a bit more.
If I was in the same situation like that, catch me in the corner crying because I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So so it's nice that at least you got out of it.
Yeah, I got out of it, but not with a nice feeling. So I really like Natasha's approach to like overcome the whole thing.
But
And we need to, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, we need to consider also that it was 18 years ago, right? I had no smartphone,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
It's like always like today, if we say, I'm gonna move abroad, I'm gonna traveling, it's it's a thing, right? But when I left first, I had I can't even remember a Samsung LX whatever E52 or something. There was no WhatsApp, nothing, no translator. I had
Yeah.
nothing. I cried. I cried, Mikhail. I was in the corner crying also. Like this happened to me. But I still like I don't know. I did it. I sometimes I ask myself, would I be able to do this again what I all did? Because it did not start with it didn't start with America and ended there. No, I traveled to over 50 countries since
Oh,
then, right?
God.
So I did a lot. I did a lot and I put myself out there over and over and over and over again. I sometimes was like crying in the airplane I was like, why I'm forcing myself to so much to do that? I don't want to do this. And then it comes, go for it, Natascha, leave your comfort zone. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. So I wanted to prove myself, right? I wanted to prove myself also that I can do it. I'm not that girl they said I would be. I was shy. Okay, I belonged to the cool gang, but I was the shy one of the cool gang. So, but still, sometimes really ask myself, would I be able to do this again? Like all this traveling, this living abroad, putting myself. I lived in Argentina too,
Uh-huh.
and in Argentina, this was a whole different story than
Oh.
America was. And it was only 1.5 years later and I took it again from the wrong side and was like, okay, I'm like a loser. This is happening again.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, like, okay, maybe you can tell us a bit more about then Spanish in Argentina. Like, was there something you learned the second time that you hadn't learned the first time around?
Yeah. So probably the second time was again. So I started back then in 2009. So I came back from America and started international tourism languages and I got in, right? So I started this program and part of this program was to have a semester abroad. So I have chosen again, not just to go for Spain, and I go like as far as I could. So I go to Buenos Aires. I heard a lot about that. I love the dancing and stuff. So I was okay, Argentina. I take that. That's great. I had Spanish back then in bachelor degree, grammar, right? And the teacher that I have, she was a German native old lady, right? Strict to the system, strict Spanish, no Latin. It's a total different story
Mhm.
than living in Argentina. And Argentina is not Latin America Spanish, right? It's a different type of Spanish. So I struggled with the accent. I struggled in general. As I struggled with everything. Like Argentina really hit my nervous system again pretty hard. And the thing that I underestimated was I wasn't going there to study Spanish. I was going there to study human resources in Spanish,
Oh my God.
right? So this was like, what the I'm doing here? I can't do this. I won't pass. I don't understand what we are doing. So you can say like I failed. I didn't close the semester in Argentina, but I took it as an experience and I still stayed for the whole 6 months in Argentina, but I came home with a different, like, okay, I put myself again in a situation where I failed, not really, but I did go out of my comfort zone and stayed. But from the perspective of studying abroad, I failed. So I tried again a couple of years later in English again and left for Australia. But
Ooh.
that's again another story.
If we maybe we should create an entire series of like all of the different places that you've been, so
Yeah.
everybody can get like, oh, what is like a country number 34? So, but in general, but again, like one of the great things about your approach is that you have been having the possibility to move to different countries and to get yourself immersed. And a lot of people would call it that. It's like, yo, bro, if you want to like do proper immersion, just move that, bro. Like just move there. It's so easy. Like just move there and you instantly become better at languages. For what I gathered, I don't think that's a very complete version of this mentality. So like what do you think it actually require beyond just moving there to be able to thrive or to survive in your case this sort of language challenges?
I think honestly, like most people think I just gonna move there and that's it. But that's not it. That's just not it. It's identity work from my perspective, as also like a language coach in general, being interested in personal growing. It's an identity work. You have to allow yourself to be just a beginner at a certain point of your life in a certain field. So you see that often, like it just happened to me. I dance salsa and bachata, and I'm like asking like this language or not this dancing teachers like, why are there just a few people in a beginner class? And she said nobody wants to admit they're just a beginner. And that's the same with languages, right? So they don't want to admit they're just at the beginner because they feel like a loser or not good enough. There we come again with this whole thing of being not good enough, not there yet, not ready yet. So the thing is that you have to allow yourself to be a beginner and then grow with it, and everything comes with you. The whole nervous system goes up there with you, right? You take the next step before you're ready. You go out there, you prove yourself, you start speaking. It's actually starting before you're ready that makes the actual shift here. So it's an emotional, speaking a language, moving abroad is emotional, not just geographical. That's what I believe.
It's interesting because I would have not have thought that people would draw the line to before you're a beginner. Because to my mind, I would have said people want to go to beginners, then they fail once. They're like, "Oh, I'm just a beginner. Please don't kill me. I'm just a beginner." But like they would admit that they're beginners because they just started out, and they don't want to admit that they want to get better. They like any total fail, they can kind of say, like, "Actually, no, I'm a beginner. Don't touch me." So it's interesting to see that people were doing even before the beginner side. That's interesting. I would have never thought of that. I would have thought that people would be very comfortable calling themselves a beginner and then like using it as like an excuse to not apply themselves. But then again, if you're moving to an entire different country, you kind of don't want to seem like a beginner because now that I think about it, it's you can't like if we were in school, you could use that. But one extra mini thing, a little bit of a tangent. Aren't the same exact dances that you did in
Yes.
Argentina? Exact same one. If we had a penny for the amount of people that decided to spend a big part of their life in Argentina, we would have 3 pennies so far. Apparently, it's a very actually technically 4 if you count. I mean, if it dances, you count an extra one for Cuba, but it's interesting to see that apparently it's a popular thing there, right? Wow.
It is. Yeah, I mean, Latin America, also Colombia, you can
Yeah.
dance. So,
Colombia,
yeah.
Cuba, we had those as well.
Yes,
I mean, that's a
exactly.
little bit in a different place, but it's interesting to see that at the end of the day, the forces that get people in the same country are, I don't want to say the same. Everybody has their own reason, but
It's a big part of the
it's a
culture.
big part of the culture. I
Yeah.
mean, I thought that it was a big part of the culture, but I never knew it was this big part of a culture. Because I think, like, if you want to dance, you dance. You don't need to speak while dancing.
That's true. That's true.
But then, people learn languages by dancing as well. Then it's a whole different thing. We talked about it a lot. I don't want to go too much into that, but yeah. But now, one thing that I don't think it was established in the actual episode, the number of languages in your repertoire is growing by the minute, I would assume, right? You made yourself a promise to speak a total of 5 languages. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Uh-huh. Where did that number come from? Because this was information before the episode, so I got a little bit of a sneak peek. Sorry, guys, I know a little bit about the episode before you guys. But but
I
you,
can Sorry for
no, go ahead.
interrupting.
Go ahead.
I can't even remember exactly, but it was maybe 10, 12 years ago. So when I visualized myself being a bachata salsa dancer somewhere speaking Spanish, which I did not fulfill my dream in Argentina, but a couple years later in Guatemala, then where I stayed for 2 years, and proved myself that I would be able to dance and speak Spanish fluent. I came up with the idea that I'm an unlimited person. I can do whatever. I could speak 5 languages. And I think I back then in 2017, I counted like German as my mother tongue, English pretty fluent, Spanish soon to be fluent. Brazilian Portuguese was always a big goal. As my best friend Anna, she's from Brazil, and I wanted always to, yeah, of course, communicate with her family. And I love the language. I know, Michelle, you said you speak a little bit Portuguese, Brazilian, right? Yeah, too. It's like, what is it? I think it's the feeling. I love Brazilians. I don't know. It's something. There's
It
something
is.
about it. Yeah, it is. And Arabic, because I have 2 children and their father is Arabic. So that's why I decided I cannot stand the fact that I have 2 children talking or communicating in a language that I can't understand or speak. So there we go. That's why I have chosen Arabic to be my number 5, but I'm not there yet.
I mean, I'm sure, like, with your own story and with your own skills, you will get there pretty quickly. We had the stories of people going through similar situations, especially the family part. If you watched our Luganda episode, again, part here you can click. We had a very similar situation where one of the guests was trying to learn Luganda as a Dutch person. But I mean, at least Arabic has, I mean, I assume, would have a little bit of extra resources than Luganda as a language. So I think you should be able to at least get a little bit of extra leverage on those. And we also had an episode about Brazilian Portuguese. If you guys are interested in learning about that too. Sorry, today I'm in a very big shouting mood. Sorry. I remember all episodes by heart, so every time it's that's a reference.
It's so impressive.
Yeah, we also had an episode about the Brazilian Portuguese, and it's very interesting because, like in your case, you have a very specific idea that is like you want to talk to someone else's family members and your best friend. A lot of people learn Brazilian Portuguese just because they kind of think it's chill. So it was interesting to see that, like in a lot of, if you were to go, I don't know if you're already taking courses in Brazilian Portuguese, a lot of the classmates are gonna be like, I just want to party all day, man. I don't know. So it's interesting. It's phenomenal to see. But I'm very very happy about your objective, because I think that having a specific objective is always going to be the number one way for you to keep learning the languages. Because yeah, the environment is great, it's phenomenal, but it's also, you need to give some sort of reason to go. You can't just be like, oh, I want to get better because I want to. Secretly, you have an objective. That's an objective. For your objective could be different. You had your own objectives when learning, Brazilian Portuguese or Spanish. What would be your objective?
Definitely. I mean, the reason why I started Brazilian Portuguese was also because of a friend, actually.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes.
Aren't you guys the same person at this point? You guys-
I also observe a lot of similarities here. But yeah, for Spanish, actually, for example, it was never a goal to be angry at a person, but it happened to be so many times in Latin America. Okay. So actually, the reason why I learned Brazilian Portuguese is also because of a friend.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes. So I see a lot of similarities here.
Yeah, you guys are the same person. I did not plan for this. So this is like next time you talk, you're gonna say like, "Oh, I also work for Tandem as a linguist, as a language learning specialist now."
Yeah, but okay. Now I lost completely the point, but maybe we can
It was
just
about
go on
getting
with.
angry.
Yeah,
about
but
getting-
it's not. It doesn't fit now anymore.
Ah,
There was a different flow last time. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Okay.
I mean, I think we could just skip
Yeah.
the next part.
Okay. Talking about working at Tandem, so as you are not working at Tandem, we would actually like to talk a bit more about what you're doing now. So you are a coach, and you work also on the emotional side of people before they even start learning a language. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yes. So besides, so I'm a German language coach. So that means like I'm a normal teacher. I'm a normal German for a second language teacher and a neuro language coach at the same time. So I did both. And I did that because you both said it earlier, or Mikkel explained it with having an object, right? Having an object. From I say always like without a why, you don't continue. So, as I said and shared before, my biggest why was I wanted to be international, adventurous. I wanted to travel the world. I want to live abroad. I want to have a certain experience. I want to storytell. I want to communicate with others. I already saw myself living my highest version, my dream. And I believe that learning a language, like teaching a language as a teacher, is giving information, right? That means I teach you grammar, I teach you how to respond. That's great. I'm not saying that that's not cool. That's super great. But before that step is a belief. It's a certain belief. If I believe I'm capable of doing that, learning that language or not. You guys remember now, and all of you who are listening to this episode right now, that I got told I was really bad, right? Being really bad means you're not able to learn a language, right? I needed to prove to them they're right. So I'm going to stick in being bad. In order to change all of that, I needed to first change how I believed, or I changed my whole belief system about it. I Basically, that's why I tell myself all the time, all that's possible, it's possible for me too. So that means it was possible for me to speak English. It still is. It's possible for me to speak Spanish. It's possible for me to be in this episode and speak English to you guys.
Yeah.
It is possible for me. So all language learners, when they don't believe in themselves that they are actually there's a possibility for them to speak German, there is not. Right? So that's why I jump in and say, I'm happy to have you in my one-on-one coaching. I'm happy to be a teacher. I work at university. I have online classes. I have video courses and everything. But there are so many proven methods of classes, of speaking clubs, of apps, of tandems, everything. But first of all, they have to have a strong why. Why do you want to be able to speak German? How is your life different after? Right? You have to have a strong why. Without why, the nervous system will collapse. You will stop. You will loop again. You will prove yourself you're right. You can't learn the language. You're just not good at this, and you prove yourself right, and the loop goes on and on and on and repeating all the time. And that's why first you need to stop the loop. You need to believe in yourself first. Once they join my program, they have to sit down and have to write down why is it they want to learn German and why they want to stuck with me. That's really important to me, actually, is they have a strong why, because the why will bring you to the end. And if your why is fragile, it won't. You won't make it. So that's like, for me, that's the biggest differentiation between coaching and teaching. Teaching is great. Coaching is coaching a language, is having a certain approach, plus the qualification of teaching it. Makes for me a really good combination.
And I even argue that this why should not only like be the gate between not being good or not like being able to complete your objective, but also that it's a way for you to continue even exercising your language. Like say for example me, that I live here now in Berlin. I transferred here about like a little bit more than a year ago. And I'm gonna be very honest, Berlin is not necessarily known for being the best place to learn German because everybody's super international all the time. In the office you speak in English. If you go to the bakery you speak in English, and when you try to speak in German they switch to English and they make you feel bad. And but in general, like if I and in my case, I personally, since I'm here working and doing this podcast and everything is in English, I don't have that specific objective that it's like, oh, I need to immediately start learning German. Like that's the why is not strong. I'm still taking lessons, but like the amount of enjoyment out of the lessons or doesn't really come from like the specific objective. And that's why, like you go again, like you said, there's a bunch of different objectives. Like if I want to go on Tandem and talk to somebody about a very niche meme that they talk about in German, I'm like, oh, I can understand this meme and I can ruminate on it and I can make an evolution of the joke. Even that, even as silly as that sound, that at least I think in my mind is a good enough objective. I don't know about you, since you are the language coach. Maybe you could see this like very plain or like very small objective into not good enough, but I do believe that the objective can come in the much smaller or bigger sizes. Like it doesn't have to be this extremely important or like super mega high milestone. Would you agree with that? Or
I agree totally here with you. It can be like small steps that bring a certain result by the end. It doesn't have to be the biggest, biggest, biggest high. But if your nervous system and your self esteem is so low as my was, my why had to be really high
yeah.
to keep going after all that they told me, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But importantly, one thing that I would like to know more is because you make a very big distinction between being a language teacher and a language coach. But for a lot of people, in my opinion, they would still be a little bit confused on what exactly the difference or between the two, but specifically the approach. So maybe you could tell us, like, what is the difference, like, the difference between teaching someone a language and coaching someone that wants to learn one, because I think there's a little bit more nuance that people maybe are not getting on the first like on first thought.
Right. So I tell this from my perspective, right? It's not a definition that I like 100% sure of, but in my perspective, that teaching a language starts with giving information about a language. Yeah. In this case, learning grammar, being like strict with rules and orders, and learning it from a teaching perspective. Where coaching changes the behavior, like the first step, as I said, about the belief system, the thoughts, is changing a certain behavior. So for example, I as a coach in the field, I don't just help people what to learn. I work on why they stop learning, why they sabotage themselves, and how I give them a certain feeling how to stay consistent when the motivation drops. So I give them more than just, okay, here's the book, here's the grammar, you go and stick with it. I'm more like this, okay, you can do this. Like, think about it in sports, right? I help them when the going gets hard. So that's a little bit more from the coach side, I would say.
And what patterns do you notice in people you are coaching that you might know from your own experience in the past?
hmm I think there's a general one that people always feel they are not ready yet. If I say, like, let's speak in German, like if I say to Mikkel, you live in Berlin, come on, let's hop on, let's speak German, then he might say, I'm not ready yet. I'm not here since whatever. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. People are not comfortable yet. They're in this loop of, I don't know the language good enough yet, or I'm only A2, right? They cluster themselves and say, like, I'm only A2. I see this. As I said, like, I work as a teacher at university too. And I teach B2, C1, high career driven level German, right? So I force them to find a job. That's my profession, actually. That's also where the coaching comes in. And they always say to me, I'm not a good at, I just passed the B1 exam. Just because you passed only the B1 exam doesn't mean you're ready yet. You need to step out there before you feel ready. That's the game, right? I stepped out of my comfort zone, lived in San Diego before I ever felt ready.
Mm.
I just left. There is no perfect moment. You need at some point to go out there and start before you're ready. And I think yeah, that's the pattern. Like, overthinking, they don't know, they don't feel ready yet, they fear of making mistakes, this shy, oh, what is if I say something wrong? Then they start and stop, they prove themselves right, and they lack a lot of self-trust, and then they stop, and then they loop, and then we
Yeah,
go again.
yeah, it's interesting because like everybody has, it's funny, everybody has very different objectives, but they keep failing the same method. It seems like that you could kind of
Exactly.
funnel everybody into the same way of failing. So it would be interesting now that you had a lot of experience in the world of coaching and you see that a lot of people succeed, a lot of people fail. What do you think the language, the world, sorry, what do you think that the language learning world gets wrong about why people tend to fail?
The language learning gets
Like,
wrong. Let me think.
yeah, like what I'm saying is more like maybe you have talked to people, or maybe you have seen other like teachers or other students getting certain assumptions about why people fail. Maybe you have a different nuance or a different perspective that doesn't really jump immediately when thinking about this concept.
Maybe the world needs people to be, maybe it's perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe it's perfectionism that people just think they need to be perfect in order to. The thing is, we are all not perfect. We will never be. And this makes it so much easier to accept the fact I'm not perfect. I will never be perfect. My English is not perfect. That's okay. I still can go out there. I still can talk. But if the world seeks people who are perfect, it's like you will constantly feel like you are not enough. So for me, it's like changing their perspective rather than seeing that the person who is not, I speak English not perfect means I have another language that I speak, actually, right? It's like, I think this was a viral trend someday to say, like, if somebody laughs at you, how your English sound, that actually means that I speak another language fluent, right? So
Mm.
for me, it's this overthinking, this yeah, not good enough, not being ready enough. This is all the same. It's like perfectionism that they, yeah.
And it's very interesting because we've seen episodes in the past of people taking that non-perfectionism to a stride. Like we had an episode in the past of a community of researchers and academics from all over the world being able to connect their thoughts just by knowing the very minimal language, just the
Mhm.
very simple act of like I can connect with someone with the very very basics of a language allows me to unlock an entire world of academic research paper. It's like this is the high grade stuff. We're not talking about like getting a coffee with your buddies or sharing a meme. It's about real like philosophy researchers backing data, and all you need is to just be a room and knowing the very very basics, not being fluent, not being like super mega like technical about your language. Even that, you can unlock so much of the world of languages and so much different like information. You can see our Tanubis Plus episode for more information. So
Yeah, but I find it super interesting that you say like this perfectionism. And sometimes I think maybe even if the world doesn't expect it from you, then you self expect it from you. So that is sometimes a difficult thing too. So not only your environment telling you you're not good enough, but yourself like having inherited this feeling and saying that you're not good enough. So it's actually something yeah, really useful to think about before going into the whole language learning thing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But with as time goes on, as more languages, more objectives get created, a lot of people succeed, a lot of people fail, maybe some people retry. At the end of the day, you also have your own objective, your own language journey that maybe is not the English days now have been perfected. You're going to new and greater things. So now we're technically approaching the end of our episode, so we just have a couple of extra questions for you to kind of dive deeper. And let's get a little bit more like, I guess, not metaphysical. What's the word? It's like more broad or more like a philosophical. I
More
think
human.
more, I guess we call it more.
Metaphorical.
It's not even metaphorical. I think none of these words would
Okay.
be useful in this situation. It's just more like about your own person. So you now in your massive list of 5 languages, technically we covered I think like 3 of them. Your
Mhm.
German upbringing, you had your English adventure, and your Argentinian Spanish
Yeah.
shenanigans. There's 2 of them that you mentioned, which are Arabic and Portuguese. You already gave us the reason why you want to go to your objective, but you know it seems that they're still a little bit ahead of you, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
So
Both of them.
what does those 2 languages like mean to you personally, besides just being part of the list or part of like a specific objective? Is there something more about those 2 languages or just those 2 objectives in your own
Mhm.
persona?
That's a really interesting question. I sometimes do an exercise in my class at university, and that's like, where do you in your body feel you speak the language? Do you speak German more from the head and Spanish more from the heart? And English, is it more in your legs? And for me, it's like when I think about Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese language, and Arabic, as I said before, like Arabic is a really emotional thing, right? The dad of my children is Arabic speaking, and I want them to, that they don't exclude me, they include me, that they are capable of communicating to me in a different language they might, how can I say, identify themselves more with than German. I don't know that yet, but that's a possibility. And if this possibility occurs, I want to be part of it. So that's a really emotional, from the heart's perspective approach. Whereas Brazilian Portuguese was always something that I wanted actually to learn before I wanted to learn Spanish. But at university, where I was, Portuguese was not given. So I have chosen Spanish before Portuguese. But Portuguese was something I felt like I was always confronted with this nice Brazilian people. I once have been to Rio de Janeiro. Then I met out of the blue this beautiful woman, my best friend now, who is Brazilian, and when she talks to her family, it's just like all these hearts everywhere, and everybody's in this bubble, and I want to be part of this bubble. So for me, these 2 languages are from the heart side, something that I wish for myself to be true. And I know at one point in my life I will reach that. I did try already to start. I started like 6, 7 years ago, with a tandem actually, to learn Brazilian Portuguese, and I was really good at it. Then the pregnancy kicked in, and then there are other whys that are at this moment of your life more important than learning Portuguese. But I tried, and I do understand also Brazilian Portuguese, but I feel like a hesitation in speaking and a confusion with Spanish.
Mm.
So I'm like hesitating a lot. And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't speak. I translate literally every word in Spanish. And I don't know, I don't feel comfortable here. Let's switch. So I still feel like I'm not crossing the comfort zone. I'm not going through it.
Yeah.
And Arabic, I'm still at my early beginnings. Like, this is something, a target, like, let's say, in the next couple years, I will start. But I'm really like, Arabic is big, right? It's not the same system. It's totally different. And my approach is always, for me, it's good enough. That's something that I told myself. It's good enough for me to be able to speak the language. I do not force myself to say, like, I'm 100% fluent and I can also write the language. For me, it's communicating, having an exchange with somebody else in speaking has more value for me than writing, right? Because with KI and everything, we can easily just translate it if I want to. So speaking the language is the highest thing here for me to achieve.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a very obtainable, a very like specific objective. So it is consistent with your own philosophy and your own like coaching method, which would be pretty interesting. But I don't think we have the time to see what happens when you have to coach yourself about it, because we had
Next episode.
man, we had episodes of people like becoming tutors and then becoming the student after becoming a tutor and all of the different situations. So it's interesting to see like if the system that you created from when you were like from back in the day now still works today in a much more different context, because in your case you develop your own objective base when someone was able to move somewhere, was able to kind of experience and force themselves to get out of their zone. While nowadays, since with the families going on, it's a lot more difficult because you don't have as many opportunities to break um break that mold, break that comfort zone.
But actually, now looking at everything that languages have brought into your life, like, what do you think where it will take you next?
Thank you for asking that question. I was waiting for it. No, kidding. So
Okay. Ooh, I'm very
I
excited now.
just I'm so excited to share too. So I just want to take another minute of our time and take you a little bit back to my big vision board that I was creating 2020 before I actually started building German language coach. Like, as I said, I'm an influencer, right? I have a huge following. I create content and stuff like this. But creating content is not that easy. There were also some limiting beliefs that hold me back, right? Like putting yourself out on camera, saying something, being vulnerable to other people. This takes really courage to step out there and present yourself. Anyway, my why I did that. So 2018, I was still living in Guatemala and I felt I was volunteering in a really nice project for over 2 years. And kind of had to support myself financially. So I started teaching as a language tutor, which I did online. And I had a great experience. And I was like, oh, I'm good at this. So I took all my certificates, first teaching, then coaching. In 2020, I wrote this really huge vision board about what I wanted to create. And as I said, I have a lot of experience with language schools in general, online and offline schools. I tried both. I lived both. I tested like every version of it. And back then in 2008 in California, I saw myself walking down the stairs from this big school. And I had the feeling like, okay, one day there is something, it's there. I'm going to take over something, or I will build something myself. So in 2020, 12 years later, I was sitting down creating my whole vision board about, okay, this is my personal brand. I'm going to talk about this. If I have that, enough of that, I can create a company. If I have the company, I can support whatever families abroad. Like, by that, I wanted to support families in Guatemala. I wanted to build kind of an ecosystem in language that helps certain, how can I say that? Certain, I'm missing the word here. Help me out with a word. Certain, like,
Say
all relate basically each other, right? So there's a personal brand, there's a company, there's another company. And so I was able, with all that I have, with Twin Boys, with my company, with the influencing, with running courses, with working at university, all that I have in my personal life and business life, to establish that by now. But I haven't had the chance to build a big company yet, or have an online school, or a better ecosystem. So basically what happened is I got offered a great opportunity. And that opportunity is I'm going to share with you right now is that by next week, I will be taking over Germany's biggest trade fair for languages, which is the Expo Lingua. So I'm officially I am the new managing director of Expo Lingua, and I get the chance to build something even bigger, greater, and I got the chance to take over something that exists already for 38 years and to give it a different approach that it is right now. And that's really great for me because it is sustained, it's existent, it lives. I have been there, I was a speaker there, I was invited a couple of times. I had every kind of role and perspective. And before I started language coaching, I was in the event industry in marketing. So I was working for Lufthansa for 6 years. I was in the event. It's like it's all that I did on a side while I did studying living abroad. I was always involved somehow. And I have a long history in events. And so that's why they decided to hand over the company to me. And so by next week, I will be officially the new managing director of Expo Lingua. And yeah, I have a big vision to create a space, through this fair and beyond, where languages are experienced as something alive, right? Where people don't just learn grammar, but understand how language can completely change their life, their career, and how they see themselves, like a completely different approach. I want to bring together institutions, teachers, learners, companies, everything in a way that actually reflects the real world and not just the theory. So that's my approach here. So I'm pretty happy that happened to me, and I took it on as a huge go to, and finally at the first step of my vision board or the second step
Only
now.
it's
Yeah.
only the second one. Wow, taking over like Expo Lingua is definitely a massive, massive, massive step. I would have expected it to be like a lot more forward in the your vision board, but
I mean, like
congratulations.
this building this personal brand around languages is one of the things that I did in the last 3 years,
Yeah,
and now I take over that because all that fits. That
yeah.
fits so beautiful together, right?
Wow.
Of course, Expolingua is super great, and I love that. And I took on this possibility and opportunity, and this is part of the ecosystem that I'm gonna go and build.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. And the cool thing is
Thank you so
actually
much.
by the time of recording, it will be in 1 week, but by the time this comes out, you will be the actual
Actually,
managing
yes,
director. So
right.
And
really,
That's
really
true.
cool.
Tandem has been in the Expo Lingua multiple times, so
Yeah.
maybe in the future you can expect us to be there in the next Expo Linguas, that's
Yes.
for sure. And
That's
now,
what I hope, actually. I have some plans, and I'm here
oh,
like, yes, I'm open to discuss everything, and I would be honored to have you guys there.
yes, yes, that would be
Nice.
lovely. We could definitely like talk more in depth, like in the future where this vision comes to fruition, and we would love to know more about it. But this is a little bit
I know.
off the camera.
Yeah.
But in general, wow. So look at you, like starting from someone that completely like doubted you to now running one of the most important events about languages in the year. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
It's such a crazy story. And again, congratulations.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Thank you so much, guys.
yeah. And I think this is a phenomenal way to also kind of give a little bit of a close on our episode of the Connected by Language podcast. Thank you, Natasha, for this amazing episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And usually this is the point where we ask people where they could reach you, where they could learn more about your business or about your project. But I would assume that now the link, other than of course your social, would be your the Expo Link official website at this point. But in general,
That's true.
if there are other places that people can reach you, other projects that you want to shout out, we will put them in the description below, and feel free to tell us. And yeah. Is there something you say other places, or those two are good enough?
German language coach on Instagram and Facebook, and support my journey by following me is great. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can find all my information there. And Expo Lingua, if you want to attend or be a speaker or anything, I'm happy to be in touch with you guys.
Yeah, and yeah, everything will be linked in below. And again, like I would really recommend that you guys come to Expo Lingua. It has been a very, very fun event. There's always so many different people, so many different creators, but also like other language experts and other like speakers. There's a lot of very interesting stuff happening.
We should maybe add that this is in Berlin, because I think
Yeah.
maybe people from
Yeah,
outside of
a little-
Germany might
yeah,
not know.
a little bit of of a very important thing that I forgot to mention. Yeah, it gets every year in Berlin, if I remember
Yes.
if I remember correctly. So you can look at the website for more information. But outside of that, thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Connected by Language podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe. And if you're on Spotify or Apple or other like podcasting place, you can also follow it. It works exactly the same. But have you guys had the how was your guys upbringing when it comes to languages? Was it smooth? Was it rough? If you have a story, I would love to learn more about it in the comments. And you can comment on Spotify too. I know that. So. But in general, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I've been your host, Michele. I've been joined by my co-host,
Michelle.
and who knows who's gonna show up here and talk about their own language story. I'm very excited.
Me too.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.